Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Fox and today I'm bringing you an updated Shotgun PvP build video. The reason I'm releasing this build basically again is due to me being wrong with regards to some statistics on the video that I released a few days ago. So before we get into the build and follow the usual format for my video, I do just want to offer an apology to everybody that watched that video. The mistake that I made was that I said you could run your shotguns at 50% critical hit chance as opposed to 60, as the critical hit chance modifier is applied per shot as opposed to per pellet. That did turn out to be incorrect, so a few of my followers, subscribers, Coolheaded Brit, elfmz, you guys kind of pointed out your own findings to me, and thank you both for putting in the time to test that yourselves as well. You know, they sort of approached it very professionally and displayed their findings very clearly, and it prompted me to check my own statistics. I've always prided myself on the information that I provide through this channel. The reason I started up in the first place is I thoroughly enjoy testing builds, and I spend probably too much time in the firing range damage testing, understanding how different damage talents work and the correct combinations. I play this game daily. I work from home, so I get a lot of opportunities to do that. And yeah, essentially the test that I followed was that I fired 100 shots into the target at the firing range, 50 at 50% critical hit chance, and the other 50 at 60% critical hit chance. The reason I performed it this way was I remember a while ago hearing something about the way shotguns work. Everything is applied as soon as you fire the trigger. It doesn't calculate it per pellet. And my testing, I don't want to say confirm this because it's all RNG, but it almost did confirm it, because I found literally no discernible difference from 50% to 60%. But I suppose RNG in its nature can absolutely skew your results unless you do it over a larger test. The other thing that further convinced me that my theory was accurate is talents such as obliterate, which apply additional weapon or give you additional weapon damage based on crits, would only ever give me one stack, regardless of how many crits were inside the 8 pellets that are fired. So if 7 out of 8 of those fired, unlike any other weapon type in the game, I only ever gain the one stack as opposed to what would usually be 7 on obliterate. And to further sort of make me believe that my theory was accurate, apart from all the testing that I'd already done in the firing range and the way that obliterate works, is killer. Killer, basically, when you fire with a shotgun, if you get a kill with a critical hit, it basically gives you 40% additional crit damage. That works even if you get only 1 out of 8 shots critting, which again sort of made me think, well, it clearly is all applied just when the shot is fired. But what I've basically done is spent the last 2 hours, and I know that sounds crazy, but I don't want to be known as the guy that spreads misinformation. Yeah, literally the last 2 hours firing. I don't even want to go into how many shots. I've got a whole page full of numbers here, and it does turn out that more critical hit chance absolutely impacts a per pellet crit damage chance. So if you're running at 60%, you will crit more often than 50%. I know that sounds really obvious to a lot of you, but this is purely based on some information that I heard a while ago. And as I say, all of my testing basically backed that up, but I just don't think that I tested for long enough and over a big enough window. And since doing that, updating my testing and taking longer, yeah, that is absolutely right. So I just want to apologise first and foremost. But with all that out of the way, I have now deleted the previous video. With all that out of the way, what I'm going to do is just quickly go through this build again, because of course there will be some new people that will be watching this in the future, and even as I release the video. So we're still going to go through the build in the usual fashion. I'm still going to load into a conflict game to demonstrate exactly how it works and why I think that the way I've spec'd it is now, yes, now, the correct way. I've still stuck with the hunter killer chest, as again, I know there were some questions in the comments section over why I would use the hunter killer with the additional 5% multiplicative damage versus just something like a Seska or Grupo with the standard one, as some people have figured out that gives you slightly higher crit damage. And what I essentially did with this test here is I ran the Seska holster, albeit one rolled to blue, with the same crit chance and crit damage, and a Intimidate Grupo chest with, again, basically the same roll as this, but rolled to red. So it was still the 4 blue, but instead of it being Seska Golan, it was Seska Grupo. And what I found from that test was that the crits went from 651k with the hunter killer to 658 by swapping out for the Grupo with everything else the same. That is, of course, an increase. However, the base damage shots went from 258 on the Hunter Killer down to 249 on the Grupo. So when I figured that out over all of the shots and testing that I'd done, it turns out that the Hunter Killer still offers more damage. We're talking barely a few percent though, so it doesn't really make a difference if you don't have this chest. But you know, I've always believed that, especially on high blue builds, more damage is more damage. It's always better. And it did calculate to being just a little bit more over the course of several shots fired, and you know, calculating on average how many crits versus don't crit. So yeah, that was the reason that I made those changes. But you know, enough of that. We've gone through that in detail now. Apologies for the newer comers to the channel that didn't see the original video and discussion. What I'm now going to do is go through the build, and then we'll get into that conflict game. So we're starting with Firewall because it gives us a few benefits for shotgun builds. We have the Firewall armor kit, which is 200% of our armor over 10 seconds and health. This is fantastic for close range builds, and Firewall is, in my opinion, the only option for close range builds. The other reason for that is it gives us the ability to apply 10% additional weapon damage to our teammates, to any enemy that we are within 10 meters of, which, running an Intimidate build, you should always be in that range. So it's just a nice team damage buff. We also get the shield. This, unlike the previous passive, this shield actually does indeed buff ourselves. So what this does is give us an additional 12% weapon damage for any enemy that is within the 10-meter orange cone in front of the shield, and that applies that to ourselves and anybody that is behind us in the blue cone. So this is a nice little weapon damage buff, and the shield is a great way to proc and sync, so we might as well use the better Firewall shield. So yeah, a lot of reasons to use Firewall. It does have some nice features for an up-close and personal build. My weapon of choice is the military M870, purely because it just packs an absolute punch. I do believe this is the best shotgun in the game for PvP. However, some honourable mentions would be the Super 90 and the 612. They both equate to, I wouldn't say less DPS necessarily, but you usually have to fire 1 to 2 additional shots. So it just depends on how your crits land. Sometimes you can get lucky with them, but you're more likely to 1 to 2 shot with the military M870. You want to roll it the same as mine with both damage to armor, which is obviously intrinsic, and damage to targets out of cover. These two are both multiplicative and stack very well with each other, and are absolutely best in slot for really any weapon in the game, to be fair. Damage to targets out of cover in particular. Damage to armor and targets out of cover both apply to enemy shields, as well as of course enemy agents within their armor stat and are out of cover, so they just seem to be working pretty much all of the time. My secondary weapon is a triple god roll honey badger. I've got measured on this. Honestly, what you usually use secondary is up to you, but I highly recommend it as an AR because these come intrinsically with damage to health, and this does actually work against deployed skills. So we're not talking about shields because they're not affected by damage to health, even though they have a health bar and it literally says shield health on them. It's all very confusing, but they are buffed. Their damage is buffed versus stingers, seekers, decoys, anything that's deployed, you know, turrets, that kind of thing, drones. And even though they show an armor bar as their health, they're actually affected by damage to health and not damage to armor. So it's all a bit backwards. I'm not sure why they're displayed that way, but that's all fine. And then finally we have the Orbit here. This is a DZ exclusive pistol sidearm that gives us the perfect finisher perk. If somebody is low, we can just quickly swap to this, and you know, pistols and sidearms in general have the highest handling stats in the game in terms of swap speed, so it's usually quicker to swap to a pistol. In fact, I'd say it's probably always quicker to switch to a sidearm than it is to reload. We can then get the 35% crit chance, and which is going to do nothing but 40% crit damage, which will do a hell of a lot with this build. Since my original video as well, I've now been able to get every single piece on this build god rolled, so this is still my single most optimized build to date, and it's very easy on the eyes, but it took a lot of time and a lot of resources to get it there. So moving on to the build part, the gear part of the build, we are running the Coyote's Mask purely for the reason that this offers a single greatest critical hit damage increase for any one item at 25%. Of course, there are multiple ranges to this, but the 0 to 15 range, which of course we will always be in as Intimidate is based on 10 meters, is a 25% critical hit damage buff, not only to ourselves, but to our entire team. So Coyotes, in my opinion, with any Intimidate build, is an absolute must. It just offers way too much damage, not only to you, but to all of your teammates, not to consider. So I highly recommend that you find a way to squeeze this in your build if you can. This is of course rolled to crit chance and crit damage, as is pretty much every other piece on my build. We're then running the Hunter Killer. This is a named chest that drops from killing, I think there's 13 hunters in New York, but there's essentially 8 individual encounters, each of which will drop a key. Once you have all 8 keys, you can go to the chest in Haven and you'll get this chest piece. You can then buy this every week with whatever role she has from Cassie Mendoza. I don't believe this can drop anywhere else in game. I've never seen these drop for people outside of simply getting Cassie to sell it once you've unlocked it yourself. This is once again rolled to armor, crit chance and crit damage, all maxed again as you can see, and this has the perfect Intimidate talent. So the usual Intimidate is 35% amplified damage to enemies within 10 meters whilst we have the bonus armor, but perfect Intimidate ups that by a further 5%, and yes, I did find that overall this did equate to more damage, as stated previously, than the Gruppo. Purely because amplified damage is applied at the end of the equation, it has the biggest gains, so 5% is more than it sounds. Another way to look at it is if they've released a new brand set into the game and one piece of it was 5% amplified damage, I can guarantee that will be on every single damage build everywhere, PvE, PvP. So 5% is absolutely great, and 40% total is actually pretty ridiculous. We then have the Seska holster, which I have swapped out to get the 60% crit chance over the 50 that I initially incorrectly stated was the right amount. So the Seska gives me the further 10%. This is once again rolled, triple god roll to weapon damage, and crit chance. Moving over to the Fox's Prayer, as is the case with all damage builds, particularly high armor builds where you really need to squeeze every last drop of damage out. You want to be running both Foxes and Contractors, as they have 2 multiplicative talents, which really stack quite nicely with the amplified damage you're getting from Intimidate and the additive damage that we're getting from our InSync M870. InSync is of course still the best damage talent in the game, even though it's additive, as it's just a flat 30% weapon damage purely for pulling out our shield, which will proc the double damage bonus buff in that last paragraph just there. So yeah, you want to make sure you get on some Contractors. They are at Cassie this week because she's got a really good roll. So, you know, if you watch this video at release, you should be able to pick those up. I've got these rolled to crit chance and max armor, and then exactly the same for the Fox's Prayer. Damage to targets out of cover, crit chance, and damage to armor. Finally, we have yet another triple god roll. Yes, this is a very lovely build to look at, but honestly, I don't want to tell you how much this cost to put this together. It will just bring more tears to my eyes, so let's not go there. But this Badger Tough chest backpack even has Adrenaline Rush, which is of course the best way to pair with Intimidate, the best thing to pair with it, as it gives us free bonus armor, 10% in PvP though. Just bear in mind all bonus armor is halved in the Dark Zone and Conflict, just for being in range of an enemy 10 meters, which is incidentally the Intimidate range. So of course Intimidate and Adrenaline Rush are the best combo with any close range build. This is once again rolled to crit chance, crit dam, and I've got that max 12% crit mod on there as well. My skills are the Striker Shield. The way that you want to get the Striker Shield set up is to run the 1% and the 5%. Incidentally, the 4% mod, which I don't have, seems to still give a 12% damage bonus. I'm not really sure what that's about, if it's a visual bug, but I've got the 5% and I break my 4% down. As soon as I saw that, I just thought, well, I might as well just run the highest one in case it is a visual bug. But it would appear that the 4% and the 5% basically do the same. Either way, get the 1 and the 4 to 5 on the left side, and then I personally prefer the active regen just to keep my shield hopefully up a bit longer. It will always regen faster when it is holstered, even with this 8% mod, but at least you're getting more regen whilst it's there. And then we have the decoy with the max health and max duration mod. I think the decoy is fantastic for any close range build, particularly in the Dark Zone, as it takes your armor and health stat from above your head away from you. It takes your name away from you as well, which works really well for closing those kills down, flanking, and just playing close range builds better. Of course, you can easily go for a EMP Sticky Bomb, which is really good, EMP Jammer, Booster Hive. You know, you've got a few choices here, but I think the decoy is just best in slot in my personal opinion. So that's the build just there. What we'll now do is go into the stats, and then I'll load into that conflict game. So looking at our stats, we're showing at 292k basically PvP damage. This will of course be drastically high with all of the crit damage, crit chance, amplified and multiplicative talents on the build. The crit chance is now at 60% exactly using the correct mods on my weapon. The crit damage is at 139%, and then everything else here is just based on a max watch level and the max items on the build. Damage to armor is a very important stat in PvP, as is damage to targets out of cover. Excuse me, the damage to armor is set at 20% from the weapon and the Contractors, and the damage to targets out of cover, whilst it doesn't show, is 8% plus the 12% here, the 10% here, so that's 18% in total. Both very important stats, and it really makes a noticeable difference on the damage that you do to your build. Looking at the armour, we are at 1.474 million, so the standard amount if your watch level is maxed and you are sat on 4 blues, which I recommend with this build. 3 blues is very good for conflict, but if you want to play more Dark Zone, I actually recommend 4. No armour on killer armour regen, as we're not looking at that for the build. This is purely a tanky 4 blue build that can output a lot of damage, and then every other stat here is based on firewall, for example health on kill, and just my watch being maxed out. With regards to your crit chance, make sure you are sat at the 60%, as that does indeed affect the per pellet shot. The way that I have achieved that is by using crit chance mods on my weapon, but as I was able to hit the 60% cap with just one, I've actually gone for the 10% crit damage mod on the weapon as well, as this comes from firewall and it is twice as effective as the other mods that you get here. You see the standard short grip is 5%, crit chance is 5%, but then you do have these unique ones from the specializations, such as 7% chance from demo, and of course in this case 10% crit dam from firewall. Just one more reason why firewall is fantastic for those close range builds. Reload speed I always think is the best one here. You can get headshot damage, which is pretty good. Rate of fire isn't worth it, I don't think. It doesn't really equate to really any kind of a DPS buff. I think reloading faster is more important in a big fight. Yeah, so you know, choose your mods how you want. Just make sure that you are hitting that 60% chance cap. As I incorrectly stated before, you do want to be at the 60% now as opposed to the 50. That was definitely wrong. So that's the build. What we're now going to do is load into a conflict game, and hopefully we'll be able to put this build to some good work. Okay, so we've loaded into Georgetown. Now this typically isn't a great shotgun map, as a lot of people like to sit on the roof and they might have you know, traps or stingers and so on there. There's a lot of long lanes, so I wouldn't usually run a shotgun on this map, but for the purpose of this video it is the first game I've loaded into, so let's see how we get on. The beauty of this shotgun build is even though we're sat at 4 blue, it does and can quite comfortably 2-shot sort of mid-armor people, 3-shot high armor, and 1-shot 5 to 6 reds, which is pretty crazy. I've just been pulsed. So I like to play it as kind of a flanky build. Just going to see if anybody is up here. And another good thing for having the AR as a secondary is you can just swap over to it. You'll still get all the damage to armor and damage to targets out of cover. Any TIE teams up there? They're on our roof. That's good. He's not a very good shot, so I got away with that. Oh, hello, buddy. There you go, nice 2-tap, and that guy had, I couldn't quite see, maybe 4 blues, 3 blues? I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's pretty dirty. So this drone is chasing somebody down, so let's go find out who that is and murderize them. Oh, hello, buddy. I'll be in sync. Helps if I can land my shots better, but a kill is a kill. We'll take it. That guy's still on our roof. Oh, we're going to do the old sneaky sneak on this guy. As soon as he stops the fire, he's going down. A little bit outside of the right range there, but whoa, that was too much damage. Hopefully that guy's still on the roof. So 1 shot to the shield, 2 to the body. Very nearly 1 shot him after the shield. He was left basically black bar. So yeah, they work pretty well. You see there that was able to tank a lot of damage. I'm pretty low health and I've sort of missed the first shot there, and a few of the shots are a bit sort of on and off their body, so I wasn't getting all 8 pellets landed, but I do think that shotguns can compete in the Lady Death meta. Lady Death is still an absolute monster, but that instant burst... Uh-oh, there's somebody up here, isn't there? No! Not today, buddy. Nice little dirty 2-tap through his unbreakable there. We'll take it.
Rogue fixer drone detected.
Don't know why I tried to fire at a shotgun there.
Allies have acquired the boost. Rogue explosive seeker mine detected.
Woohoo! That was a bit too much damage for my liking. Quick peek round this corner.
Agent down.
Oh, I should probably actually heal up here, shouldn't I? And it's a bit too risky now. But again, those 4 blues just help me to stay alive in these kind of situations. Spamming the old decoy there. Oh, that's too many people. I'm going to get out of that. Ah!
Vital signs
Oh,
critical.
what? Okay, what was that? I was so far around that corner. Can somebody please explain to me how I just died there? Was there somebody down the bottom that killed me? There's just the 3 people that were chasing me. There must have been somebody near their spawn, because there's no way the people down that alleyway shot me there. I was ridiculously far around that corner. Probably just didn't see him. So we're on 6 for 1 so far with 22 million damage. Looks like the guy at the top of our team is doing a lot of damage. 29, that's pretty good.
I'm sending you a specialization supply drop.
And using the shield to proc your in sync has the other bonus of absorbing damage shots potentially from another shotgun user as well, so it's just 1 extra shot that you can tank. Like that, so he's basically black part. Oh no. Oh wait, he didn't go down? What? Okay, not quite sure what happened there either. I probably pushed a little bit too aggressively, to be fair, which is never a smart idea. I broke his shield and then fired the next shot when he had basically nothing, and he seemed to survive. Or did I get that in the kill feed? No, I didn't. Okay then.
Friendly claiming the supply drop.
Now, I'm pretty convinced that the firewall flamethrower has gone back to being bugged again. Like a few of the fixes and patches that Massive released, they've accidentally reverted a couple of them. So let's see what happens against this guy. So I want to test this now, see how quickly it kills them.
Agent down.
You don't have many reinforcements left.
I think there's somebody to my left, but we're going to go for it anyway. Oh, it takes time to swap you weapon.
Vital signs critical.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Thank you, teammate. You are a legend, good sir. Thank you. Saved my life. Yeah, that was hard to say. It didn't kill them that fast there, but what I've been noticing is when we've been trapped in the spawn, in our own spawn, people have come around the corner and just insta-killed us with the firewall flamethrower. But there, I don't know, that wasn't an insta-kill. It was pretty quick, but I don't know, man. Maybe it's just more powerful than it needs to be. These guys saw me here. Got my teammates with me.
An agent needs assistance.
Wow. So you all know that my accuracy is pretty average at best.
There are no more reinforcements.
If you're a pretty good aim with a shotgun, this build is going to do wonders for you. I knew there was somebody around here somewhere. Wow, that is a lot of damage. What build was that?
Agent incapacitated.
And once again, yet another bug in this game. Can't inspect this person. For no reason whatsoever. We have no lives remaining. I have 4 minutes and 39 seconds according to that timer at the top to inspect this guy. And yet I cannot. So what we'll do then is we'll go straight to the leaderboard now. We've obviously lost this game, which is a bit of a shame. We'll have a look at the end game stats. And then we'll bring the video to a close. Apologies, this was a bit longer than my usual build videos. I just wanted to get it clear at the start that I did make a bit of a mistake with my testing. And whilst my results sort of nearly confirmed my theory, it did turn out to be wrong. I just wanted to kind of explain why I came to that result. I don't just second guess stuff, I do test stuff. But in this case, RNG kind of messed me up a little bit. It happens. So, let's go to the leaderboard. Okay, so we ended up finishing on 9 kills versus 3 deaths and 2 assists with 46 million damage. Don't forget shield damage is calculated in that as well, so, you know, those numbers do seem inflated. But either way, it looks like we had a pretty solid game. Unfortunately, we did lose there, but once again, with Massive's terrible matchmaking, if you look at the conflict levels, as me and the guy underneath me on 100, the other 2 dudes are clearly brand new to conflict, and then there's a bunch of low levels combined with high levels on the other side, so it's... You know, I'm not really sure why the game hasn't just put the low levels in one game and left the high levels in another game, because that was just poor matchmaking. But that's a video and a conversation for another day. Massive. Try and get it fixed if you can. Thanks again for watching. Thank you for accepting my apology if you did. I'd like to get a bit of a discussion in the comments about just the build in general. I'll do my best to reply to all of those. Don't forget to join the Discord as well. That link is also in the description. And until then, I will see you all in the next video. Peace.